Brilliant. Thank you so much for your answer. So let's welcome all the panelists to this event. So first, I would like to invite Tomasz Miralek, who is representing KB Smart Solutions, which is part of Komercyjna Banka from Czech Republic. Then we have Diana. Please raise your hands when I basically mention your name so people can recognize you. So it will be easier for you. Diana, you are the CEO of Innovix, a startup accelerator in Romania. So welcome. We have Raul with us, the head of company's digitalization department of Banca Transilvania, the biggest bank focused on SME segment in Romania. We have also Mr. Pavel Francik representing the FinTech unit at Alior Bank in Poland. And the last one but not the least, we have Stephen Quintin representing D+D Mobile Security Company. So welcome everybody. So let's discuss about the FinTech market altogether. I'm very happy to have basically you among this panel. You have all experience working together with FinTech, or you're presenting FinTech by yourself. So the question that I would like to address to you today is the FinTech a bubble? So let's start first with some questions that I prepared for you. What are your views on the current FinTech market? And let's start with Diana. It would be interesting to understand your views on the current FinTech market.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, everyone. Today I see a maturity of the collaboration between banks and fintechs. So I think the hype passed, but we are now in the plateau of productivity where mature fintech solutions are adopted by banks and collaborate with them. At Innovix, in the last 2 years, we had 8 fintechs from a total of 77 accelerated, and we are proud to announce that 6 of them already work with top 3 banks in Romania, and 2 of them are in advanced discussions with the bank.
Brilliant, thank you. So let's ask the same question to what is your perspective in Poland? So what is your view on the current FinTech market in Poland?
I think it's quite wide, and as Diana said, we have some implementation too in our bank. We are cooperating with FinTechs very closely, so there is no bubble for us. And at the first stage, it was some kind of challenging between banks and FinTechs, and now we are cooperating very close.
There are the competitive one, the one that is looking to eat up the business from banks, and the one that are looking to cooperate. So let's ask
we have to become a fintech in banks. So in the banks area, we feel like a fintech. We were established more than 10 years ago, and we still feeling like a fintech among the banks.
Brilliant. And so, yeah, I know that Alior basically is calling himself a fintech and was one of the first digital bank in Poland. So what about the views from our colleagues from Raiffeisen? So Max, maybe you can tell us something. So you've been presenting your cooperation with fintechs. How do you foresee the fintechs market right now from your perspective as a VC?
Yeah, the fintech market. Sorry?
No, sorry, excuse me. We had some lag. Go ahead.
The fintech market, of course, this year saw massive dynamic. So in the venture capital scene, we all realized and saw the dynamic that came into the market with first a slump in valuations in some fintech areas, and then some actually rebounds, and some of the areas actually benefiting a lot from the whole situation that we are in right now. And as always in such turbulent times, there are winners and losers, and in such turbulent times, there is also some investment activities are increased, and this is what we experienced. And going forward, digital is first for all banks. Every company that is enabling banks to become even more digital, even more efficient, with new technologies, be it blockchain, be it artificial intelligence. Every companies that are jumping on new areas like asset tokenization or other buzzwords, we'll see everything that is around ESG, green finance, huge topic, where there's a lot of opportunities for new business models as well. So I actually see that there has been some corrections in the market, but going forward, there are a lot of opportunities out there for fintechs, and we are looking forward to it.
So you mentioned there are a lot of opportunities out there, so for fintechs, but those opportunities also in the reach of banks, the traditional one, the incumbents. So where does that leave us with the fintech markets? Do you think that fintechs are still going to mushrooms like they did over the last 3 years? Because over the last 3 years, I was on conference, and probably you were, and one of the major topics is always fintechs. Where does that bring us right now? Because we can see that this year has been a very challenging year with COVID-19. And we can see that some of those fintechs has been challenged in the very core of their business model, such as banks. But banks are very resilient and they are too large to fail. So what are the impacts that you may foresee for those fintechs and how the future is going to look like? So maybe I can ask these questions to start with to basically Thomas.
Yeah, so thank you for the question. I think because of COVID, all the companies, including the fintechs, realized that we're living in a digital world now. And this has impacted banks a lot, and the fintechs are coming to actually help banks solve these problems. That's why, for example, us in Komerční banka are looking for partnerships that can help us with digitalization. I can see, for example, a huge potential for SME lending, digital SME lending, mainly, for example, in the high growth area in e-commerce, because e-commerce sector, we see that is booming right now, growing even faster than before. And so the growth has accelerated. We have focused on this one and started an equity partnership with a startup called Lemonero, which is doing B2B lending in the sector of e-commerce.
All right. And I have a question for you. Basically, it's again for Max and for Christian. Since you cooperate with a lot of different fintechs with Raiffeisen, how was this year? How are the startups doing after this major crisis that has impacted the market?
Christian, you want to take it?
Yep, I will take it. Let's see. I think there is no answer to that, no concrete answer to that. What I see, and that has already been discussed before, is that, of course, in the crisis that also the banks need to sustain, we see a lot of projects internally postponed, and as such, fintechs kind of lose their major partners. On the other hand, especially we at Raiffeisen, we are deliberately dedicating resources still into innovation and still into this cooperation concept, because we believe this is now actually the right time to do that. Why do we believe that? As somebody rightfully already mentioned, is in the COVID time now, we've seen it's a huge push in terms of making services much more needlessly integrated, much more accessible via digital channels, etc., etc. And I think fintechs here are definitely the partner of choice when it comes to coming up with new solutions for our clients. So I believe there might be a bump in it. Of course, it might be challenging for some of them, but ultimately, I believe that we can continue on working.
I hope so. Okay, brilliant. Raul, what's your opinion on this topic? Because you also represent basically what they call the incumbent. What is your view? Do you think that as a bank, or basically you will in the future be stronger after COVID compared to those fintechs which are out there?
So thank you very much for first of all for inviting me and having me on this great panel. You left the incumbents for the final answer. Actually, I believe that everybody that is going to adapt to this crisis is going to become more stronger. So I'm not really anymore seeing a competition between banks and fintechs. Actually, the fintech history is quite interesting. It started with a declaration of war for banks, and as they moved on and the years passed, the declaration of war became a declaration of collaboration. So we are seeing a lot of opportunities and chances for banks to collaborate with fintechs in the future as well. I'm seeing banks narrowing the gap between the services, the digital services and the digital channels they're offering in terms of user experience versus what fintechs are doing. So that's a good thing because we started learning from fintechs, and in terms of collaboration, I think we managed to take the best of it. So I'm seeing still a long road ahead for banks and fintechs as well. But I'm seeing a road that's built on collaboration, not on competition or war.
So basically, if I understand well, you believe more in the cooperation model, but you don't think, in the future, fintechs will be competitors because banks are now closing the gaps. So Diana, maybe you have an opinion on that because you are kind of boosting startups, basically giving them muscles to go to the market. So what's your opinion on that? We cannot hear you. You're muted.
Oh. Okay then, sorry. Yeah, I think the fintech have an advantage because having already developed innovative technologies, the fintech companies are either developing by themselves or in collaboration with traditional banks, and I think will be more and more the companies in fintech, I think. And the collaboration with traditional banks, it's very important also for the banks and also for the fintech side.
Okay, what are your views on the time to market? Because usually as a bank, you like to cooperate with a fintech because you know that your time to market or your flexibility won't be fast enough to address some issues. But know that banks are investing massively in technology. That means that the game is kind of changing. And especially banks are accelerating this transformation program due to COVID-19. So how do you see the future? I mean, what will be basically an added value as a fintech to start cooperating with a bank? Because the view of a fintech is, hey, if you can buy my software, my solution for 100K, I'm going to help you and it's going to change your process. But we both know that banks, they don't look at this way. They will say, okay, it's nice that it costs 100K, but to implement it in my current architecture or my organization, to integrate it, it will cost me $1 million. So what do you think should be really the added value in the future for this fintech? Because there was a lot of hype, and I can see that more and more there are shifts in the industry and banks thinking this way, that they can do it by themselves because they have access to the resources. Diana?
Yeah. Yeah, me? Okay then, okay. Sincerely, I don't analyze their valuation, but I can tell you that all my family has cards from all the challengers banks, even the kids, and that it's, I said, very, very excited and very helpful for the fintech companies, and also for the banks. I think it's not.
Well, so maybe we can have an opinion from a banker. So maybe Pavel, you can tell us something. What are your views from Alior Bank? Because you call yourself a fintech, but you also like to cooperate with fintech. So what's your own opinion on this statement that I just made before?
I think the time to market external solution. How to say it? I think the fintechs are faster than us because we are quite huge organization, and this is the challenge what they are giving us. But we are not so late for them, and this implementation what we have show us that we can manage this challenge. But now it's not a challenge; it's a clear cooperation.
All right. Okay, so let's talk about another sensitive topic. It's the valuation of the fintechs versus banks. So we have all seen the markets in March dropping like rocks. Basically, banks' valuation got completely wrecked on the stock market. They hardly bounced because there is still a lot of worriness from investors that there might be a high credit, basically default on the market globally. Otherwise, if you look at the fintech pre-IPO or even the ones that succeeded to make an IPO or they're making rounds, Series B, Series C, they have huge valuation. So let me ask a question to basically Stephen. What's your opinion on the valuation of those companies? Are they completely crazy, or do you think it's reasonable that valuation of fintechs are much higher than banks when it comes to, let's say, a multiplier of EBITDA?
Yeah, thank you for the question. And I think it's a question that most people have on their minds. Is this a hype? Is it a bubble? I think when I look at fintechs, first of all, they exist today because there's a need in the market. I think their challenge is to be able to flip it from a growth strategy, which most of them are following, in other words, trying to grab market share, because they need that to become sustainable. But we haven't seen any profit coming out of many of the fintechs. They're still on this growth phase. So for me, I think the evaluations are purely related to what the investors are putting into these companies, and what they're valuing them at, based on obviously the growth that they're having, and not necessarily at the EBITDA that they're producing, if they are actually producing any kind of profit at this stage.
Yeah, that's actually brilliant. That's a brilliant answer. Like, that's the point. There is not that many fintechs out there that are making a lot of money, or if not, they are actually losing money. So when you look at the valuation of Revolut, a company that I like very much as a consumer, they are evaluating themselves around 10 billions. This is twice as much, for instance, as the market cap of Raiffeisen. So how comes that a company like Revolut basically can be valued so much without showing any profits, whereas a bank like Raiffeisen, which is more stable, let's say, and that has evolved through many crises through the times, which is international, is valued twice less? Maybe we can have an answer from our colleagues from Raiffeisen. What do you think of the valuation of the fintechs? Especially, those valuation might be even harder to basically to take some equity or to buy them.
Yeah, I think you've given part of the question, part of the answer already. It's always in business a risk-return question, and the more risk you have to take, the more return you want to have. And in these valuations of fintechs, there's a lot of conviction of future development, and people are obviously trusting and believing that these fintechs will grow even further. But as always in these life cycles of companies, at some point they need to prove that they're capable of producing healthy profit as well. And I think especially in these challenger banks, this time has come. And if you look at the actions that some of those banks are taking at the moment, also increasing their fees on their platforms, are all signs that investors are now demanding from them to actually switch gears from simple and pure growth to actually producing profits. And it's yet to be seen if they are capable and able to do so. I think that's my answer to this question.
So my question to you and to you all is, does it mean that we are into a bubble? A bubble definition is that high valuated price, there's an asset that doesn't value as much. So what do you think if somebody wants to take the stand and talk on this question?
Well, if I may, I mean, we're as G&D, we're a global company, so and we've been around for over 170 odd years. So the company's seen and been in the banking space and central banking space for all these years. So I think trends come and go. Is it overvalued? It's only overvalued if it doesn't deliver the return. So, if you take what the total banking industry globally is worth, then fintech banks maybe don't represent the biggest chunk of that, yeah. But as if you're purely analyzing the fintechs themselves and looking at their balance sheet to what has been invested, I think the risk of some type of bubble and a bubble bursting is there, because the big question is, can they flip this? Can they move to profit? And I think this is where traditional banks have had a more conservative approach, but they know what the bottom line is. They know what it costs per transaction and how much it costs to have an account. Fintechs are relying on other revenue streams, on data leverage, etc. And it's a new world out there for them. And time is the only thing that will prove whether this is really a bubble or not.
That's correct. So, we are living in a sustainable world. So how much do you think fintech business model is sustainable? Organic growth, traditional bank, model, VS basically VC money to subsidize real costs. Basically, you're paying a lot to acquire customers. So how much is it sustainable? Maybe you want to keep on answering this question. It's for you, Stefan.
Yeah, I think there's two things that fintechs have to help them with the medium-term sustainability. One, they leverage data in a different way to banks. I mean, when I got a salary increase, I didn't get my traditional bank contacting me to say, here's a new credit facility, or we see your monthly income has increased, let's offer you a different facility. Whereas a classic fintech is going to be analyzing that information, seeing that there's a change in my spending behavior, and start leveraging that data by bringing complementary offers from the whole ecosystem. So I think that's one. They leverage the data they have. Secondly, they have a much lower cost base to work off. Their tech stack is brand new. Some banks are sitting on core banking systems that are 30 years old, because they just can't change it for whatever reason. So I think those are the two advantages they've got. The thing that they've got to still figure out is how do they get customers to start paying, because they've attracted the customers on a zero cost or low cost type account, and maybe through features and functions, but that doesn't pay the bills. So they need to find a revenue model that does not cause their customers to suddenly just leave them and abandon them as fast as they joined. Another area of sustainability is who they partner with. And when we look at it from a G&D perspective, we feel strongly that partnering with fintechs and as a large company, giving them the support they need to make them sustainable, to make them be able to offer the kind of products and solutions that their customers are looking for, helps with that sustainability.
I think if I may add, I think right now the fintechs are still growing their footprint. They're investing in their growth phase, right? And they want to get as much customers as possible, and they're doing quite a good job. But now they have to switch into building their revenue streams and monetizing their customers. I would compare it to Facebook, right? When Facebook grew, they grew to were investing in the growth to make their network and to have as many people on board as possible. I think the fintechs are doing the same, and only then they start. Once they dominate, they start flipping and finding revenue streams, and then they can grow their revenue streams pretty fast.
Yeah, it's true. It's usually most of the time for free with fintechs that make it very competitive for banks. So the real question is, can they keep their customer when they start to monetize this base of customers? So one of the, yeah, I think somebody wanted to say something.
Facebook's still for free, yet they've monetized it. So I think that's a really good example that was given. I think Facebook is a good example of how users are not charged, but their data is leveraged to make a profit. And fintechs can do that.
It's a different business model. So that's the innovation. Actually, it's about innovating the business model. So maybe people that are using challenger banks now that have application and banking for free, maybe it will stay for free. And the fintechs will leverage the data that they have on their customers to monetize it.
There are a lot of possibilities out there, I guess. But coming back to this valuation topic, do you think that basically some fintechs are completely overvaluated on the market? Because probably when you're shopping out there are a lot of startups that are actually looking for funds or looking for additional round from the investors or for new investors. There has been COVID-19 this year, which is creating a lot of issues for companies. So do you think that next year we might see a different approach on the market where we will really see banks starting to actually acquire fintechs out there for a very cheap price? Do you think that's a possible trend? Maybe we can ask Max from Raiffeisen or Pavel from Allior.
I don't think so that banks will they use the opportunity to buy someone cheap, because if someone is cheap, that means the solution is not ready to the market. The revenue model is not accepted by the market. So I think this year the COVID-19 is some kind of check line, and many businesses will be evaluated by the market if they survive or not. So this is the point of truth for their businesses.
Okay, and do you think fintech will survive COVID?
Absolutely. I think most of them will survive.
All right, that's a strong statement. Has anybody a different opinion on that? All right. So
maybe I could add something to this question. In terms of surviving, it's going to be hard to just point out who is going to survive and who is going to not survive. But what I'm seeing, and probably next year will give a lot of answers to the questions that you have asked here in terms of sustainability for fintechs. But what we are seeing and what we are sensing from the market is that they are reducing a lot their costs. And when you are reducing a lot of your costs in terms of what a fintech business model is looking like, probably it would be harder for you to regain the power that you had before by finding finance in the market, because the financing level from VCs have dropped dramatically this year in terms of financing fintechs and financing a lot of innovation startups due to COVID pandemic. And not because they don't have the money. I mean, there's a lot of money that is just standing in the market, but I think it's a period that everybody is waiting to see what's going to happen after the medical crisis in terms of COVID. So they are going to survive, but they are going to need a lot of time to recover from this, let's say, pandemic crisis that hit. But I'm not, as the colleagues said, I'm not seeing banks just going out there in a shopping strategy to buy fintechs for a lower price to integrate them in the banks.
Although I mean, if I may, the rate at which banks are closing physical branches, and it's a global trend. They might have this massive reliance on fintechs going forward. We know what the COVID has done from a digital acceleration perspective, of the millions of people who are now, for the first time ever, turning towards digital payment products. If they're closing branches like they aim to do, and cost savings that the banks are doing in their physical branch infrastructure, they are going to desperately need some of this innovation that fintechs offer to remain relevant.
So here we have two different opinions. So that's very interesting. So maybe
we are using the external solutions, especially tech solutions, but we are not. Sometimes we are not able to buy it or to invest it. There is a lot of, as you said, situation that we use. For example, in Poland, Booksy, there is a startup for booking visits in our branches to avoid the queue and avoid the other people in pandemic time. So we are using a lot of external solutions, but we are not. The strategy is not buying them. In general, we have at our bank you have VC RBL VC fund. We are an investor in few startups, but the goal is to get not more to 20% of the assets. So we are our strategy to help startups, to support them, to make them at a huge scale, but we are not. There is no plan to take the control of them.
And why not? Why wouldn't you like to acquire this amazing technology if they help you on a day-to-day business?
Sometimes it's a matter of we can by buying them we can kill them, to be precise, because if they are hours they looks like Alior. Some other competitors, some bank competitors, they don't want to cooperate with them, because we are in the highly bank. Poland is a special market. There is a lot of banks. The competition is very, very high. So if we have some startup, some solution, and we are owner of this startup, other banks doesn't want to cooperate with that kind of startup. So this is the best solution for the Polish reality.
Yeah, but let's pretend tomorrow, hypothetically, a Revolut doesn't cost 10 billion, but 1 billion, because they didn't secure the investors. Wouldn't that be a good opportunity for a group like Alior or Raiffeisen that are with us today, or any bank in Europe? You think so?
In that case, there is other rule, money rules. So I can change this opinion in with this price.
I mean,
that's talking about valuation. Exactly. That's exactly what I meant. So I have a question for you all. There's been a lot of hypes, around fintechs, their technology. We can see that right now there are big questions regarding their sustainability and either they are able to monetize their customer base. On the other side, around the world, there are big changes. Bitcoin is about to go to its all-time high, about $20,000. The world of cryptocurrencies is exploding, which is going to create a lot of new fintechs opportunity. Last week, PayPal decided to introduce for their customers globally the ability to buy Bitcoins. We know that Bitcoins is not something that bankers really like because it's out of their control. It's not part of the central banking monetary system. But on the other side, the central bankers are now creating digital currencies. So as any one of you thoughts on this, basically, cryptocurrencies opportunities, because this is going to revolutionize the market. Do you think that might be a good opportunity for the fintech industry to create even more hype in the future? Because let's remember that cash is king. That's what bank has, but not the fintech. But right now, there will be opportunities with cryptocurrencies.
If I may, I'd like to distinguish between cryptocurrencies and digital assets. So cryptocurrencies, as you just mentioned, as Bitcoin, etc., there we have definitely as an incumbent bank that needs to obey to compliance and regulatory rules. We have, of course, some open questions to be resolved before we can offer that to our clients. But on the other hand, if we have digital assets, and be it tokenized debt, equity, or even cash, so in terms of stablecoins, etc., we in Raiffeisen very much believe that this is something that we not only need to look into, but that we also want to actively drive. And as such, we have already established our internal proof of concept when it comes to a euro-backed stablecoin. We call it RBI coin because we see this also as an efficiency case for intercompany and intercorporate and interinstitutional settlement processes. And here I think somebody might ask, why don't you wait for a CBDC from the ECB issued? But given the fact that we're also operating in a lot of countries outside of the European Union and as such outside of the SEPA area, we consider tokens as a very good means to achieve real-time payments, to achieve cost efficiency, etc. In addition, on the retail side, I believe this really can change very much the investment model that we can offer to our clients. It democratizes it. It offers a different approach when it comes to risk diversification, etc. So I'm a strong believer into that, and at least for our side, for RBI, we can say we are actively looking into that.
Yeah, definitely, that's the next generation. Any other opinion on this topic?
Yeah, so if I may, as GND has its pedigree comes out of cash manufacturing and printing, and having worked with central banks around the world for many years, I think the CBDC topic is going to become very relevant in the future. And it's really a question of do the Bitcoin type or stablecoin type solutions get moved to the periphery of international trade, or do CBDC become central bank digital currencies become interchangeable in the same way as I can take my physical cash, my dollars or euros, go to an exchange and change them for another currency? Does it have more legitimacy than a blockchain Bitcoin? Yeah. So that's the question for the future.
It's definitely a big question that a lot of people are arguing on a daily basis. So we are going to run out of time. So I have a question for all of you, and that you can answer one by one, very quick, just by yes or no. Once Warren Buffett said, "Be fearful when the others are greedy, and be greedy when the others are fearful." So what do you think? Because everybody is greedy about people. Will be greedy.
Sorry, I have a huge problem to understand the question because there's an echo.
Okay.
Maybe it's only me, but I think it's.
Do you all have echo? Yes? Okay, so I will ask again.
We hear you double voice, like a double voice.
Is it better now?
It's very, yes,
Or not?
a little bit.
All right. So I said once Warren Buffett said, be fearful when the others are greedy and be greedy when the others are fearful. So should we be greedy or fearful of fintech? So I will let you all answer about that, and then we'll close the panel because we're running out of time. So you can start, Max, because you're the first one.
If it's to choose between greedy and fearful, then I would definitely take greedy.
Same for me.
All right. Then
If
Go ahead.
sorry, if Warren Buffett will trade fintech on Toro, maybe I will copy his moves. That's it.
If it was up to me, I think that now the environment is fearful, so we should be greedy.
all right. Basically, then we have Pavel.
I'm voting for greedy.
Greedy, Thomas.
Greedy.
And Stephen, last word?
I think we have consensus, greedy.
All right. So thank you so much for your added value during this panel. There was many of us this afternoon, so thank you so much once again, and I wish you an excellent afternoon. Thank you very much.